Welcome one and all to another edition of the Defo Show with Lubie. Without Defo, just Lubie here on the 5 Reasons Sports Network, brought to you by the phenomenal people at Water Cleanup of Florida. No one ever wants to deal with home issues. We know that. But they happen. That's the fun about being an owner of a home. Yeah, it's yours. You build the equity. You also have to deal with the problems. But what makes it easier to own a home is knowing that Water Cleanup of Florida exists. And I've said this for weeks now. But what's interesting is seeing it front and center. Look, when you work with an organization, you believe them. And the fact that they have 60-plus years of work experience between Michael, Robert, and their team, the fact that they have licensed contractors, when they say they can be contacted 24/7, you believe them, and you want to take them at their word. However, the fact that we've been working with them for the last week or so, they've been everything they're cracked up to be and more. I did reach out to them literally in the morning, which is quote-unquote 24/7. It was not business hours. Heard from them. Made an appointment. They scheduled it as quickly as I needed it. Came out. Assessed the situation. Made an appointment to actually do the work. And have done the work and been in contact with me regularly to make sure that the work was getting done efficiently, effectively, and that it was to the least evasive of my day, my wife's day, our family's day. And I got to say, it's made a world of difference. When house issues come, it stresses me out. This is the least stressed I've been when it comes to a home issue, but maybe the most egregious issue we've dealt with in our house in the 3+ years we've owned it because of Water Cleanup of Florida. They've done it for me. They've done it for us. They will do it for you. Give them a call, 954-579-0356, 954-579-0356. Reach out to them on the website. Check them out on the website, WCUFL.com, WCUFL.com. If you mention 5 Reasons or Lubie, get that free inspection during business hours. I'm telling you, when it comes to service, they're top-notch. When it comes to quality, they're top-notch. When it comes to getting the job done and making your life easy, Water Cleanup of Florida, we clean up your schmutz. It has been interesting. It hasn't been schmutzy when it comes to the offseason in the NBA. It's been sort of boring, right? There's been signings. There's been reports. There's been rumors of big names, but nothing's really happened. Of course, the Miami Heat are front and center with that. NBA offseason rolls on. The latest after yesterday, I talked about the Miami Heat should now turn their focus to Donovan Mitchell. Which, look, they offered a trade for Mitchell before they even got into the Kevin Durant discussions. So it's not like they haven't focused on Mitchell. News yesterday, Donovan Mitchell won't ask out. Okay. He's trying to be the nice guy. He doesn't want to be a jerk. But nothing the Jazz have done has shown that they're going to build around him. They'll be rebuilding. And look, the guy's 25. So, yeah, I guess he could be a part of a rebuild and in 2 or 3 years to contend again. But you're not getting free agents there. And he's good enough where they're going to flirt with the playoffs. So their draft picks are going to be in. Like, to me, if you're Donovan Mitchell, you don't have to ask out, but that's stupid. Like, there's no reason to stay there. They are clearly rebuilding. They went with a 34-year-old coach. Why would you want to be a part of that? You can win now. You literally are the beginning of your superstardom. This is your, 10 years where you can be great, 10 to 12 years. When you get to your mid-30s, usually it starts to taper off. Why? Especially, and he's a physical kind of player, so who knows if he's going to be like a Durant, where he's into his mid-30s being great. To me, if you're Mitchell, you ask out. If you don't want to ask out because you're being a nice guy, fine. That changes nothing for me. I still think he doesn't want to be there. And I still think the Jazz aren't building around him. The Jazz are rebuilding. I think if you're the Heat, you focus on him because Brooklyn Nets. It's not that they're, okay. So people are going to, the other news out of the NBA really yesterday was the Brooklyn Nets turned down a ridiculous, the Brooklyn Nets asked for a ridiculous trade from the Minnesota Timberwolves, one that they knew they weren't going to get, one that the Timberwolves balked at and laughed at. Because that's what's happening right now. Kevin Durant still has 4 years on his deal. He just signed it last year, his extension with the Brooklyn Nets. They don't have to get rid of him. They don't really want to get rid of him. They're going to, because when a superstar is bitter in this day and age, you might as well just get a haul and move on. It's not working. Kyrie's not playing. You had to get rid of Harden. Simmons is sort of a waste at this point. If Durant wants out, you might as well just junk it. And that's what it feels like they're going to do, is they're going to start over. But they're in the stage where there's no rush. They're going to ask for the most outlandish trades possible, and if someone gives it to them, they'll be happy, and if someone won't, they'll keep Durant. Sort of what the Sixers were doing with Simmons last year. Supposedly, the Nets wanted Karl Anthony Towns, a guy who's one of the best big men in basketball and had a resurgence last year. Anthony Edwards, who's one of the best young players in basketball, literally can shoot threes almost as well as anyone and is as athletic as anyone, can get to the basket at will. And as a rookie, was a huge part of the Timberwolves not only getting to the playoffs, but almost winning a first-round series. Like, pulling off a huge upset. Over the Grizzlies. So, with that, I just can't boggle, like, the Nets, it doesn't boggle my mind. I know what they're doing. It's just funny. Like, asked for Towns, they asked for Edwards and 4 first-round picks. Or 6. It was some ludicrous number. It was a trade that they knew they weren't going to get again, and the T-Wolves weren't going to go for. But it tells you where the Nets are in this process. Like, people like the Heat fans and Suns fans that thought this was a done deal or thought that it was happening sooner than later, it ain't. If the Nets are in that place where that's what they're asking for, then this isn't happening for a while. Like, they're not rushing this, and they shouldn't. The dude has 4 years left. He has 4 years left. He committed to them. Yeah, I'm not mad at him because Kyrie's a total lunatic, and at this point, things not working, so to wait around is dumb. So he should ask out, but if you're the Nets, what are you rushing for? There's no rush. If someone gets antsy and really wants him bad enough, they'll give you a stupid-ass trade. Or you just keep Kevin Durant, which he's not, I don't see him being sit-out guy. Like, he's going to play. It's only going to hurt his value to sit out, so. It's just funny that, like, it came out yesterday. That's what they're asking for. It's like, yeah, okay. There's no way you're getting either. You're not getting Towns or Edwards. Like, the point of getting Durant is to have both of those guys. But to ask for both? I mean, come on. So that's where the Nets are. That's where the NBA offseason is right now. Other news out of Miami. Victor Oladipo, which to me is a bigger move than people are giving it credit. Everyone worries about the new flashy thing, either like a stud rookie or a free agent acquisition. Or a big trade. Sometimes, like you saw with the Heat last year, what's in-house is what helps as much as anything. Bam Adebayo and Tyler Hero took big steps last year. Yeah, the playoffs, they sort of screwed around on offense, and Bam was good on both sides. Bam was great on defense, okay on rebounding, and on offense except for like 2 games or 3 games. Tyler Hero was totally useless the entire playoffs into the Eastern Conference Finals where he was hurt. I don't say he was hurt. Like, he was definitively hurt, but they're sort of acting like, oh, yeah, that's what he did all playoffs. No, he probably wasn't hurt all playoffs. He played like ass. But either way, the regular season, both guys took steps forward. Bam finally got really aggressive on offense, was averaging 19 and 12, or 19 and 11, something like that. Was really good on both sides of the floor. Should have been Defensive Player of the Year. Really took a step during the regular season. And Tyler Hero was like 0.1 points a game or 0.2 points a game from leading the Heat in scoring. And was 6th man of the year. And if he was starting, probably would have been an all-star. So they grew within. And that's what a lot of Heat fans and people are missing from Oladipo. Oladipo missed all of the year. He missed really the last 2-3 years. Before that, he wasn't an all-star. He was an all-NBA player. He was like one of the top 15 players in the NBA. Both ends. He was a dominant defensive player, and he became a really good offensive player. Shot the 3 really well, could get to the basket, was decent at facilitating. Like, the Indiana Pacers were in the playoffs and had a shot at doing something. He was their best player. Eventually, he got hurt, and they flirted in the playoffs, but they didn't do much, the Pacers. But if they had Oladipo, a lot of people thought they could have done some more damage. And he was their best player, and then he got hurt there. Then he went to the Heat and was hurt. And then this year, they just sat him out. But they brought him back at the end of the year. And in the playoffs, he was the Heat's 3rd best defensive player. I mean, you had Jimmy, you had Bam. You probably had Bam then Jimmy, because Bam, to me, is the best all-around defensive player in the NBA. Jimmy's probably top 2 or 3 perimeter defenders in the NBA. Oladipo was the 3rd guy. Oladipo, at times, was the best. He was dominant defensively. He really got in Tatum and Brown's head, and he showed flashes offensively. His 3 wasn't great. Hit a couple, hit a few in the playoffs, but he was getting to the basket. He was moving like Victor Oladipo. So it let people like me go, if you're doing this now, what does he do with a healthy offseason? And they talked about it yesterday. Victor Oladipo is saying, I'm going to come back better than I was before. If that's true, that's scary, because then he'd be a top 10 player in the league. I don't know if he's going to come back better, but he's not old. He's like late 20s, like late 20s, early 30s. And he hasn't had a lot of wear on his tires because he's been hurt a lot in his career. And in his time with Orlando and Oklahoma City, it wasn't like he was getting overly used. So, where Jimmy Butler is 32, 33, but like a 37-year-old's body because of how physical he plays and his time in Chicago really put him through the ringer. That's not the case for Oladipo. So, to me, a lot of people aren't, as much as he want to get a Durant or Mitchell, and of course, if you can, go for it, Oladipo is going to be big for them. And this is a huge offseason for him. And I think if he can grow, then they'll be very scary because Tyler Hero is still a guy that can put up points, and he's young. Tyler Hero is like 21. Tyler Hero is still young, so he still has a lot of room to grow. So if you're the Miami Heat, like, I want to make one of these moves, but again, and a lot of people talk about this, chemistry is everything for them, and you don't want to throw in someone just to throw in someone. So yesterday, Oladipo came out, he's going to come back better than ever. Will he? I don't know. But I do think it was interesting to be able to keep him and then get him for 2 years at a reduced rate. And I think that's something that's not being talked about enough. What you saw from Oladipo in the playoffs gave me a lot of hope. People wanted him, they cared about him, but they've been more focused on P.J. Tucker. Look, P.J. Tucker added a toughness this team had 2 years ago on their NBA Finals run. And that's true. But if you remember in the conference finals, he was hurt and wasn't the same dude, and they still went really far. The idea is Oladipo was huge for them in the playoffs. He just didn't score. But we've seen him be able to score. His only issue wasn't that he suddenly got bad. He was hurt. But what we saw in the playoffs was he wasn't hurt. He looked good. He looked healthy. But when you haven't played in 3 years, your offensive game does suffer. So having a healthy full offseason, getting him possibly for 2 years at like $6-7 million a year, that's a win. And they've gotten the Crowders of the world before. They've found guys that are tough to play the 4. Or undersized 4, stretch 3, stretch 4. Or undersized 3, undersized 4. I like PJ Tucker. I wanted to keep him. But to me, keeping Oladipo was actually more important. And you got him for a lot less. And he's younger. And he's one of these guys that if it works out, he can be a part of your build going forward. Because again, remember, Jimmy Butler's in his early 30s. And with his Chicago days where he went through the hill, and he's gone through the hill with the Heat, been a very physical player, his body's more of a late 30s guy. So, and he's playing the best basketball of his career. He's now a legit number 1 on a team that can win a title. And he's a legit top 10 player in the league. You used to say top 15, maybe. Now, the way he played in the playoffs and in the regular season, he's a top 10 player in the league. But how long is he going to be able to do that? 2-3 years? Cool. So you have Butler with Oladipo, with Bam. If you don't make a move, then with Hero. However, you also, if Oladipo can be something, then you have that continued build with Bam and Hero going forward. Or if you're able to get a Donovan Mitchell, which I really do think at some point he's going to be moved, and he wants to be here, and the Heat want him, and they do have the pieces to make it interesting with draft picks, young players, guys with big contracts with a Robinson. Let's say you get a Mitchell, you still have Oladipo too. I wouldn't put Oladipo in that deal. So it's funny. What he has been, you forget about him. But what he can be, the promise is ridiculous, and it's the exact kind of thing that the Heat have been able to get the best out of players. And the fact that he took less than he probably could have got elsewhere. It's that second year. It's cap friendly. It allows him to still make moves. Something a lot of people aren't talking about, and I think it's huge for the Miami Heat. So I know it's the off season, and I know Heat fans want to talk basketball all the time. I sort of am realizing it's a lot of smoke without a lot of action now. At some point, Durant will be traded, and then I think you'll see some other dominoes happen. We'll see how that goes the rest of the NBA off season. It has been a fun week with you all here on 5 Reasons Sports Network. Defo is back Monday. Excited for that. Hopefully you're excited for that. Hopefully you're excited for a weekend. We'll see what happens with the Miami Heat. It feels like what the Nets are doing when it comes to Kevin Durant is a joke. And it's not really a joke. It's, look, they have 4 years. They know it. They're not rushing. They shouldn't rush with 4 years left on Durant's contract. So that's going to sit. Donovan Mitchell wants to be the good guy. That's fine. I still think at some point he's out. They are clearly rebuilding in Utah. And Donovan Mitchell, even though he's 25, has been in the playoffs every year. He's been in the NBA. I don't think he wants to go through a full rebuild. So it feels like at some point that marriage will break up. So we'll see what happens with that. I don't think much will happen over the weekend. But hopefully you have a great weekend again. Check us out each and every morning. South Florida Live on Google, YouTube, Facebook. Or search The Defo Show with Lubie. Check us out on our exclusive content podcast. Today I talk with Jim Sonnefeld, drummer, songwriter for Hootie and the Blowfish. Has a new book out, Swimming with the Blowfish. Really interesting about his journey. When he went through depression, went through addiction. And it's really cool that he's really open and honest and raw about it. So check that out, The Believe Network, BLEAV.com. Search After Hours. And of course, with our South Florida content pretty much every day, here. The Defo Show with the Lubie on the 5 Reasons Sports Network.
Hey folks, Tony Segreto here. You know, since day one, Catholic Health Services has been part of Old School. And since we've started letting people know about them, it's changed their lives. You see, Catholic Health Services, while being recognized as one of the top places for stroke rehab in the country, it's also about a group of people who not just excel in what they do, from the doctors to the nurses to the therapist, on and on and on. It's how they do what they do every single day that separates them from the pack. They do it with a passion, unmatched, and the inclusion of family in every step of the process. Trust me when I tell you this. If you want the best, unmatched rehab with a special group of skilled, caring people, there is truly only one place, and that one place is Catholic Health Services.
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in Plantation, because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. First of all, they're not only open for delivery and pickup. All you have to do is go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both pickup and free delivery. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers, Raw Bar, and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. Thank goodness for Landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.